Yo, it's almost 1 a.m. in the UK, but we had to get the kind of this jigsaw to kind of complete the puzzle. We haven't been able to grab everyone, but we've done a pretty good job, man, in getting who we can. But, it's 1 a.m. for a reason because this guy's based in Toronto. He had an anthem of an album. He changed the rap game. He was one of the first North American rappers to kind of come to the UK, but it's equals MC, bro. Good down. What's going on? And finally, yo, we've managed to connect and link up.
Respect, man. Yo, illegal, yo, like enough respect to all you guys and your whole staff and your whole team to stay up so late for me. Obviously, me being in Toronto and in Canada, and I really appreciate the opportunity and the love that you guys are showing to Cully. So respect, man, and yeah, it's a big thing, man, and I'm glad that somebody's actually taking the time to do this. So I think it's very important.
No, no, definitely, man. Let's just go straight into it, man. We've got a lot to talk about. We don't have enough time, you know what I mean? But let's kind of talk about, yo, the journey itself and how it kind of started for you, right? So, the Untouchables team in itself, you had RDB on there, you had Indy Sagu's on there, you had your little dollies, you had, the main roster, Manak-E, etc. Then suddenly out of the blue, right, a new kid comes called E equals MC into the fraction, right? And the predominantly the kind of setup of Untouchables, it was British artists. You've now got a Canadian kid who's kind of jumped into this team, and he's exploded
Right.
with not just Desi Fly Chick. He's exploded with his debut album, Call It What You Want. You know, kind of just talk us through the journey of like how did you kind of join the Untouchables camp?
So I always had like a connection with music and Punjabi UK Bhangra. And then what ended up happening was one day I was on the internet and I'm about like 16 years old, 17, and I see these three sings come up on my screen on the internet. And back then, like you had like Napster and you had like there was this Win player, and I downloaded this album, and it was just RDB. And I listened to this and it just blew my mind. I was like, yo, I've never heard anything like this. Like this kind of music, this kind of vibe. And I started researching these guys and they had a website, rdb.com. So I checked it, man. And like, right away I sent an email and I said, I love your music. I've never heard anything like this. You guys are awesome and I would love to. I'm a rapper and I rap and I would love to do something with you guys. And I didn't get a response, obviously, because at that time they were just coming up too, and they ended up doing a show out here in Canada, and I went there and I saw Manj. And I met Manj coming off the stage. Like I grabbed him by his arm and I said, "Yo, like I rap and I do this and I do that." And he said, "Yo, Safe, give me your number." So, he took my number. I didn't make anything of it. I thought, like, it's just going to be, he ain't going to get back to me. And, like, about a week later, I get a phone call. I came from school, from high school, and I came home around 3:30, and I get a phone call, and it's Manj. And he says, "Yo, it's Manj from RDB." I said, I was like, nah, like someone's playing a game on me or something. And he's like, no, like I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, bro, you met me at the gig and you gave me your number, so I hollered at you. So I linked up with him. He goes, come to the studio. So where my high school was, he had just moved here because he had married Nindi, and he had just moved like literally 2 streets away from where my high school was. So after high school one day, I told my boys, I said, yo, drop me off to this house over here. Cause like this RDB guy lives over here. I'm gonna go check him. And my boys are like, okay, all right, we'll drop you off. So they drop me off. I go into his basement and like I walk into this basement and next thing you know, like I see a big studio. I'm like, holy, like this is crazy, you know? Cause I just had a little computer and I used to like rap off beats and like make demos and I sent them out to like PMC and a bunch of other guys. Nobody ever got back to me. So this guy actually called me and tells me to come to his house and I'm in his basement and he starts playing all these beats and these songs and I'm like, yo, like this is crazy. How am I met this guy only I've been a fan of these guys for about 3-4 months. Next thing you know, this guy comes and does a show here. I hollered at him. He told me to come to his house, and now we're like kicking it. And he puts on a beat, and I had already given him a tape. I remember because I had recorded Desi Fly Chick. I still remember that. And I gave him a tape, and I think from that he picked up on the lyric. And he had made a whole fresh new beat for Desi Fly Chick. And he goes, yo, listen to this. And then we had Nindi do the hook, you know? And so she did a hook, and then I just rapped my verses. And he said, yeah, safe, bro. Like, I'll be in touch with you. And I said, okay. And about 2-3 weeks went by, and like they released, I think it was like, I forgot the name of the album. But on that album, they put Desi Fly Chick on it. It was like had a bunch of different producers on the album. And next thing you know, the track's playing on BBC Radio. And then I got a call, Manj got a call from Tony, who owned Untouchables. And he said, yo, the song's doing really well. Who's this kid? Manj is like, yo, I just found this guy, like, you know, and he's good. And Manj is like, yo, your song's doing really well on the radio. Next thing you know, like for 6 weeks in a row, we were #1 on BBC Radio with Desi Fly Chick.
So then literally, if we kind of fast forward now, you know, Desi Fly Chick's dropped. You've hit a #1, which not a lot of people can say they've done, right? Then obviously Unstoppable comes out. Then, you know, the album, Call It What You Want, came out, right? So things for you escalated really, really fast. Now, the question that I kind of have was, you know, when Call It What You Want dropped, you know, it blew up the name E = MC. You know, people were wondering, you know, what does E = MC mean? The name itself.
The way it worked was like, you know, like RDB was being run in England by Cully and Surge. And then there was RDB North America, which was Manj, Nindi, and me. So like we were doing all the gigs in North America, they were doing all the gigs in England. So me and Manj, like, you know, I was his hype man on stage, and you know, he was DJing and doing everything, and Nindi was performing with him, and they were doing mainly the main part of this the show, and I was the hype guy. And so we did like a whole North American tour. And then Manj told me, he's like, look, um, you know, you need to build a platform for your own name. And the only way that's going to happen, it's not going to happen if you stay in Canada. The only way that's going to happen is you're going to have to go to England, and you're going to have to build your brand and your name there as E = MC. Because we're RDB, you're associated with us, but at the end of the day, you need to build your name. And you know, as a big brother, he gave me only good advice, and he said, you know, if you really want to make something of this music thing, then you need to go to England, and you need to build a foundation there, because that's where the scene is. It's not like now. Now the scene is in Canada, and if you look at it, before the scene used to be in the UK. The scene ain't in the UK now. Scene is in Canada, North America, and the only reason that's happened is because um, you know, the UK had its time, and 20 years later, now Canada's having its time. North America is having a moment, like Deep Jundu and all these other artists who coming out, Karan Aujla, AP, all Grinda Gill, you know, Brown Monday, all that stuff that's coming out now. If you think about it, you know, we laid the foundation for that. You know, if it wasn't for people like us, they wouldn't have ever, North America wouldn't be having this run that they're having. Mickey Singh, all these guys. So at that time, we didn't have anything here in the early 2000s. The Punjabi scene here was still just slowly growing. And we all just looked at the UK like, yo, the UK music scene is, you know, that's it. You know, the Lambers, the Manak-Es, the Amin Hairs, B21. We looked at that whole scene and said, yo, the UK Punjabi music scene, that's the scene. And then, you know, man said to me, like, you ain't going to be able to make it out here. You need to go to the UK. And so I took his advice as a big brother. And then I was only 18. I just finished high school. I did 1 year of college, and then I moved to the UK. And when I first moved to the UK, I stayed at Manjan Kuli's mom and dad's house for about 3 months. They kept me there. They took care of me, and eventually, then Manj came down, and then Tony from Untouchable said, "You know what? Like the best way for you to progress and build your brand is if you live in the Midlands, in the middle of England, because you can travel anywhere." I didn't have a car, so I would like take the train everywhere. So Manak-E said, "You know what? Come stay with me." So I lived with Manak-E for about 3 months. He put me up in his house for free, didn't charge me a penny, nothing, you know, and that's why ਆਪਾਂ ਭਾਜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਇੰਨੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ respect ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਮਾਨਕੀ ਭਾਜੀ ਦੀ, like it's big respect. I stayed with him, and eventually I got myself into a house, and I was renting, and finally I started work. I said, I'm to Tony from Untouchables, I don't want to work on an album, an E equals MC album. And so he said, okay, fine. So what we did, started with Kuli. Me and Kuli sat down together, and we said, okay, let's get vocals. So I still remember the day we did a vocal session with Amrit Saab, and we had Sabr Koti, uh, Lamber, Majid Rupawalia, and Ingrej Ali in one studio session. And we recorded I think about 7, 8 vocals. In those vocals that day and leads, we recorded Mai Mai.
Now, this is one thing that we want to honor is Cully, and you've kind of answered a lot of the questions, kind of just saying just exactly kind of his thought process, what your relationship was with him like. But one question is, and that not a lot of people talk about, was the impact that the Untouchables camp was impacted by when Cully passed away. Because, like I said, in time and time again in every interview, as fans, we didn't know that Cully wasn't well. We didn't know that Cully was battling health issues. And then suddenly, news breaks that, Cully's passed away. And it sent like vibrations across the whole industry. It sent vibrations across fans. How did it impact you? And when did you find out that Cully wasn't well? And, how did it impact you when you heard Cully passed away?
I didn't know that Kuli was sick, and I didn't know that the circumstances were to the extent of what they were until I heard it just like everybody else that Kuli's very ill, and I had reached out to Manj, and Manj had told me like he's not doing well, and this is the situation. Um, and in my opinion, um, Manj did everything that he could.
You know, the last kind of area I want to talk about, and you kind of mentioned it, was kind of the wind down of Untouchables. So, we've spoken to so many artists, and Untouchables went from 0 to 100 so quick. It was albums releasing anthem after anthem after anthem. Like anything that came out of that camp, you was guaranteed to have 2 or 3 chart-topping songs on those albums, EPs, sing. You call it whatever you want it, right?
I'll put it plain and simple. Everybody who else came along, they need to realize one thing is that, be thankful that, you got to be a part of it. That's my honest opinion. Be thankful that, you guys were blessed enough, because everybody else who was a part of that crew was from Bradford. From there, they were from Bradford, and they were doing the wedding scene and this that, like Lito Tolis, or and I don't know a lot of them, like, but like guys like Indy, I know, and guys like Guppy, like, be thankful for the fact that you guys that they put you guys on. I look at it from a perspective that I'm thankful that I was given an opportunity as a kid from Canada, and I got to go out there and I got to show the world what I had as an artist, as a rapper, and now I'm a producer. And I'm only a producer today, and I'm working on music is because I got to sit with legendary guys in the studio and look at them work. But you got to remember one thing, like like they paved the way. They changed the whole format of the game, in my opinion. They changed the whole sound. That sound from the classic album from Pot Darande to everything else that Manj and Cully did in terms of the production. That sound, even from the stuff that they did for like with Surinder Rattan, like people don't know. If you take it back, like before they even came up with their own stuff, they were doing stuff for Surinder Rattan, you know, and I've been able to sit there and witness the genius of Manj, the genius of Kali, and unless you've been there in the studio to see it, you would never really understand it. So for people to, other people, they can have their opinion on it. But in my opinion, they realized that the market was dying out, and Kuli, especially Kuli and Manj, they realized that look, we're not gonna last in this industry now. We need to step it up, and they did. And how many people can say they got to work with Snoop? How
Yeah,
many
no,
Punjabi artists
no
can
doubt.
say they got to work with Snoop Dogg,
Yeah, no, 100%,
Akshay
100%.
Kumar? you know, you can't just, okay, people can just be bitter if you want to be bitter about the situation. Because I'm going to keep it 100 with you throughout this whole interview, right? People can
Yeah,
be bitter because, yo, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਤਰੱਕੀ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਰਹਿ ਗਏ, but at the end of the day, you can still continue and push and do what you need to do, you know but the problem is everybody always wants to rely or blame, play the blame game and say, oh, these guys left us behind. I don't think that. I don't think magically left anybody behind. What they did was they continued and said they came up with a plan, as they are as brothers. They came up with a plan and said, yo, look, we're going to do this, and they did it. And nobody should be upset about that, because at the end of the day, they did the hard work. And I'm not gonna sit here and say, you know play the blame game. They did what they had to do to keep and provide for their, not only they did it, but they're doing it to provide for their families. So who am I
none,
to judge them? Who am I to judge them and say, "Oh, Manj Kuli, oh, why you left me behind? Oh, you put me on the track with Snoop Dogg." That don't make no sense, because Snoop is Snoop. I'm nothing compared to Snoop Dogg, right? They had to do what they had to do to provide for their families. They had to do what they had to do to continue the legacy, right? And they did it. And I'm happy for my brothers. I'm happy. I'm so happy for them for all the success that they've achieved. And for anybody who, and one thing I want to make clear, anybody who, you know, because I heard all these things when Khalid passed away. Oh, Madge ruined RDB. And no, he didn't. He didn't ruin anything. What he did is he didn't want to continue the brand or the name RDB without his brother. He RDB wasn't just Manj and Surge, right? RDB was RDB was Manj and Kuli, right? Because they made the music. Let's be clear, right?
yeah.
Surge DJ'd and went on the road and he did what he had to do, and he definitely contributed to the brand. But the guys who actually creatively were in the studio making everything were Kuli and Manj. So he lost his brother. He lost his, it's like apagadanya ekatana, one hand, but when you make it a fist, it's
It's,
stronger, right?
yeah, yeah.
You know, then you can give the knockout blow. And the same thing, he might have had Manj's, his hand is open, it's Manj, but when it's him and Kuli together, it's this. It was this. It was the knockout punch. So he didn't want to ruin the legacy, and people don't give that any respect.
No, no,
People, because
100%.
people don't
And
realize what it takes for someone to do that. People
no,
think it's easy for him. People think it was easy for Madge to just say, "Oh, you know what? I don't want to be. We're not going to continue RDB." That's not the case. Case was he was trying to tell people there is no more RDB without Kuli. How can there be RDB if my brother is not here anymore? Without I'm this. I'm an open slap. I'm not this anymore. So he wanted to preserve the legacy of what they did together, and so that people wouldn't tomorrow. If he suppose he went and put out music on his own, and said, "Oh, it's RDB," and then people didn't like it. You know, then people were gonna say, "Oh, he ruined the name RDB. He ruined the brand. He the music doesn't sound the same anymore." Right? So
Yeah.
he said to himself, I'm gonna preserve the legacy of RDB. Everything me and my brothers did together, we did. Take myself out of that, and I'm gonna start something new, and it's gonna be Madge music. And you gotta
No, no
respect.
doubt. No, I
You
know
gotta
what the fact that
as a banda, you gotta respect that, you know, and that's how I look at it. I, I anybody, like I said, anybody who holds any resentment or any ill will to the fact that untouchables, all good things come to an end. I'm sorry to say it. It's the natural thing of life. All good things come to an end. But the legacy of RDB, the legacy of Untouchables, we're celebrating it today with you guys. And it was a special moment in Bhangra, in the Punjabi music industry, for the UK Punjabi music scene. And that's that, but I don't hold no ill will towards my brothers. I wish them all the success, and like I said, I am, as an artist, as E equals MC, I am who I am today because of them. That's
Now, bro,
the honest truth.
we'll run out of time, but thank you so much, for taking time out and telling your
Oh, thank
story and
you,
your
man.
journey.
Thank you for having me.
Now, there's one question that we want to ask. We've asked everyone, and you are literally the last person we're going to ask this, and then we're wrapping up this kind of reunion.
Right.
If in 2023 we flew everyone down to the studios for one reunion, everyone's in the same room, one time to celebrate the success and legacy of Untouchables, to remember Kuli, would you be there? Would you turn up?
would you turn up?
I would 100% be there.